Hey, do you want to come over and make a pot of tea, bring your favorite crystals? We could talk about our birth charts, spirits, the latest house spells we've been doing. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm that witch next door. Hello. Hi, neighbor. Welcome back to That Witch Podcast. Welcome to season 8 of That Witch Podcast. And if this is your first time here in this wonderful magical space with me, welcome. Hi, it's so nice to see you. It's so nice to connect with you. And if you have been listening for a long time, thank you for joining me again. This is a special season. Aren't they all special? But this is a special season of That Witch Podcast, season 8. And this season, we will be celebrating 4 years of the podcast in July, which is just so insanely wild to think about. One thing that I am going to be leaning more and more into this year is video, primarily through the wonderful channel of YouTube. This is something that we've been building since almost the very beginning of the podcast. The wonderful Jenny SRP, who is my all things media witch for That Witch Next Door, has been helping me build my YouTube channel since late 2021. And we're doing really well over there. And it's just something that I'm enjoying more and more of. I am, if you can't tell, the podcast host in me, I'm a long form girly. I don't really thrive in short form content. I really blossom. I really come to life in long form, if you couldn't already tell. So this is going to be one of those episodes, hopefully the first of many, many more, that I'm hoping to get more and more visual and incorporate more and more visual components. So keep an eye out for some more video content coming connected to this episode, connected to, I should say, themes around this episode, kitchen magic and kitchen witchcraft. Look for more video content coming connected to this. So if you are strictly a podcast listener and you don't follow me on social media yet, or you don't follow me or subscribe to me on YouTube yet, I highly, highly recommend that you do, so that you don't miss any of the fun stuff that we will have, coming your way. I'm excited to add more of this visual component, especially as we really, really dive more and more and more into witchcraft and modern magic with each other this year. And so we're kicking season 8 off with a very exciting, personal favorite subject of mine. Are you a kitchen witch? I was looking it up before the show, and I've only done one other episode on kitchen magic, which, if you know me at all, is crazy to think about. It's crazy for me to think about. I still can't believe we've only done one kitchen magic episode. But then I was getting ready to record this, and I'll be honest with you, I have been kind of nervous. I think that I have so much love for kitchen witchcraft, and I think that I identify so deeply with being a kitchen witch that it's really, really important to me. And so it feels like, don't fuck it up, Danny. So this has been a long time coming, and I'm very excited to be doing some more branching out from this episode and beyond as well. We'll have a kitchen magic masterclass in That Witch School. That's going to be available to all access members. And then it's going to be available for purchase by everyone else after that. So I have this big, extensive masterclass coming, where if you love what you hear today and you want to go really in depth with it, all access member of that witch school is definitely the place to be to get access to that kitchen magic masterclass first. But today is going to be a nice general overview. So in the past, we've done a couple. We've done Are You a Cosmic Witch episode? Are You a Death Witch? Are You a Green Witch? And we're bringing these types of episodes back and beginning with Are You a Kitchen Witch? For me, this cooking and food, and that goes for, also like crafting beverages as well. But really creating in the kitchen has been, man, one of the oldest parts of me. I have some of my earliest memories in being interested in food and how it's prepared and where it comes from, and foods among different cultures around the world throughout different time periods, the evolution and transformation of ingredients. There's so much. I am fascinated by anything and everything to do with consumables, basically food and beverage consumables, I should say. So for me, this is an easy answer, easy question to answer. Yeah, I'm definitely a kitchen witch. This was probably one of the easiest, most natural forms of fusing my witchcraft to regular, normal parts of my life. So I wanted to start out by saying whether it's kitchen witchcraft, cosmic witchcraft, death witchcraft, green witchcraft, any branch, really one of the best ways to find out, quote unquote, what type of witch you are, which is more of a fun way of actually saying what are ways you will personally really enjoy practicing magic, is to look at the parts of your life that you already enjoy outside of witchcraft and magic. What are the things you already really love doing? Are you a book enthusiast, reader, writer of any type? Are you an artist of any type of medium, a musician? Are you a crafter of some type? Are there things that you build? What are the types of activities, hobbies, things that interest you and fascinate you naturally the most? I can probably guarantee that there's either already a branch of witchcraft for that, or there is a way of infusing your magical mindset in with that. That's really how all of these develop, a kitchen witch, a cosmic witch, a green witch. So I do want to say that if you love cooking and or baking, yeah, you probably are. You probably are. If you already really enjoy that process, it's going to feel really natural for you to infuse your magic and witchcraft into cooking. And I want you to just trust your intuition and get creative and give yourself the space to take your time in the kitchen. That's where the magic comes in. That's where you can let yourself be guided by intuition. That's where you'll feel that guidance from your ancestors, your spirit team. It's going to come pretty naturally to you because it's a medium you already really enjoy. Now, I want to shift gears and I want to specifically talk to those of you who are like, I don't even know why I played this episode necessarily, because I know I'm not a kitchen witch. Like, I am not into cooking. I am not into baking. I don't enjoy this, or it doesn't come naturally for me. It's very difficult for me. There are a slew of reasons why for all of these reasons. There's a slew of reasons for why you may have these aversions, is what I meant to say, to cooking and or baking. The process of, maybe you're one of those people who is like, I'm a total foodie, but not necessarily when it comes to actually cooking. Like, I have this huge palate and appreciation for food, but when it comes to actually cooking, et cetera, this might be due to being neurodivergent or disabled or having little to no access to different types of ingredients or appliances or the utilities required to make this an enjoyable process, or even a possible process sometimes. Depending on your living situation and the circumstances that you live with, there are a ton of super, super valid reasons why cooking, baking, preparing of your food is like not really for you and not really your natural area of interest. I still invite you, if anything, I especially invite you into this episode, into this conversation, my friend, because here's the deal. If you're not really into astrology, don't do astrology. You don't have to do cosmic witchcraft, whatever. It might not really come across your plate if you don't want to deal with it. The same thing can go for green witchcraft in a lot of ways. If like the plant thing is just like really at the end of the day, just not your thing, there are just types of magic and witchcraft that if you don't really enjoy them or you're not really drawn to them, you might never cross paths with that ever again. It's easy to avoid. However, when it comes to kitchen magic, this is a branch of magic technically that presents itself to us every single day because we all have to eat food and consume fluids in some way, shape, or form. In order to live, we have to eat and drink. We have to stay hydrated and stay fed. No matter what that process looks like for you, if you're alive and listening to this, it's something that you have to think about at the very least every single day. So this is where witchcraft, magic, a little bit of intention, a little bit of mindfulness is something not necessarily, not to be necessarily afraid of kind of getting more comfortable with or getting more and more on board with, or at least finding your own unique way of practicing this daily responsibility for your own physical health and life with some sort of sacred intention. So that's why this, of all episodes of different branches of magic and witchcraft, is special in its own way. When we get to the elementals, we'll be doing a little series on working with the elements in witchcraft and magic this season. I'm so excited. And we'll be doing a lot more going into depth with that in that witch school during that series. We'll see this type of conversation come up again. There are types of or areas of magic that are so broad, they're truly, truly universal. Elemental magic is one of them. And I also believe that kitchen magic is another one of them because of the physical human necessity that we have to be fed and hydrated in order to live. So why not, if you're already a magical, energetic practitioner, why not bring some intention into that? Because that is all that it is. You can go into this learning process, my friend, and your goal does not need to be so that you like cooking. You don't have to. Liking cooking doesn't have to be required of this entire the process, quite frankly. This is more of like the conversation around bringing more magic into your daily or weekly chores, your daily or weekly driving commutes, the type of daily magic that you can do in your day-to-day job or with your everyday belongings and tools and items that you use frequently. A lot of this branches into the conversation of what would be called like house magic and house witchery. But again, these are our most performed tasks, the things that we experience some of the most of in our human life are the mundane tasks that we do throughout the day every day. If you had to tally it up by the end of our life, the amount of hours that we spent on preparing our food and consuming it and preparing our beverages and consuming them, or having to bathe or having to get dressed or all of these things, the more if we know that by the end of our life that these are like, we really do technically spend the most like majority of our time on these things, why wouldn't you make that a more magical process? Why wouldn't you take advantage of that in some way, shape, or form? This is the magic that separates the men from the boys, so to speak. That's the energy. I had to use that exact analogy. But you know what I mean? Like this is what starts to separate the new witches from the experienced witches. Experienced witchcraft looks way smaller on the surface. If you were just to zoom in on a random day and a random time of an experienced witch's life, the way that they're practicing magic is going to look on the surface really, really small. When we very first get started, and this is all so new, there's a lot of grandeur, there's a lot of education, the thought process that has to go into mindfulness work, intentional magic, intentional tasks takes longer, requires more of us because it's something we're still building a habit of. The more that you practice just intentional living, having a manifesting or magical mindset so that each thing that you're doing is with intention and with purpose, the process of like getting into that mode or mindset becomes faster and faster, or like shorter and shorter. It takes a lot longer at the beginning, and then it just becomes like a part of you eventually, so that that everything you're doing is essentially a metaphor for your magic. This is where I want you to let the preparing of your food come in to play here. Yes, kitchen witchcraft does and can look like a specific recipe with ingredients in it that is for a spell. Of course. I find though that definition of it is like kind of what people think the whole picture is. And I'm like, no, really being a kitchen witch is first and foremost, probably, I would say it's treating your kitchen and the objects within it as sacred. If I had to say, of all the things I prepared and wrote down for this episode, if I had to say like what at the heart of kitchen witchcraft is, it's this. It's treating your kitchen and the objects within it as one giant altar or sacred working space with all these sacred tools. The more that you treat the whole entire kitchen that way, the more that every time you go to prepare food or to rehydrate yourself, the more every single thing you do is just naturally a part of your magic. And therefore, this process of nurturing yourself becomes this more and more sacred and special act of care for yourself and care for anyone else that gets anything from your kitchen, whether you are cooking directly for people that you live with, like your family or roommates, or if you make food and bring it to people, or and honestly, in so many ways, just the act of nourishing ourselves within our kitchen just by like eating our breakfast that morning before we go to work and interact with the world. That's another way that our kitchen is having this like radiating impact on the world around us. What we nourish. Oh my God, I keep almost saying nurtured. I keep almost saying nurtured, but I want to say nourished. So I keep drawing out the Sorry, everybody. I'm really excited about this. And so I'm really trying to choose my words carefully. And it's definitely resulting in a little bit of a little neurodivergent mind glitches there, which is hilarious. That is an example of how what we nourish ourselves with in our kitchen, how that radiates out into the world around us based on how we utilize that space and the items within it. So if you take only one thing from this whole entire episode, it's that. I would definitely say take that. Treat your kitchen and the objects within it as sacred. And you do that, my friend, and you kind of can't go wrong. I'll be honest. You don't even really could stop right here. You don't even have to listen to the rest of the episode. There you go, everybody. Class dismissed. No, but that's it really is the fundamental backbone of kitchen magic. So I don't care if you have like the kind of kitchen that belongs in a magazine. It's so giant and magnificent and fully stocked. Or if your kitchen is a microwave and a mini fridge in a dorm room, or any situation in between or outside of those, anything, anywhere, any place that you prepare for and consume your food, treat it as sacred. This is where you go back to your witchcraft basics, okay? So cleanse that space, cleanse the tools, cleanse the objects in there. Care for your kitchen and care for the objects in it. So every so often, do a deep clean in the place that you cook your food. Care about things like cross-contamination. Educate yourself on that, by the way. If you're new at all to cooking, or if you don't already know a lot of food safety practices, food safety is an excellent form of kitchen witchcraft. You heard it here first, folks. I'm serious. Learn about like food hygiene and food safety, and that goes for like not just the preparation of, but also like the storing of food, what temperature to keep your fridge and freezer at, and your dry goods and pantry at, and what types of containers to keep things in. When you put thought into these things, you're nurturing the beautiful vessel that your whole kitchen is. Look at your kitchen as this big, beautiful, organic spirit that you're nurturing. And the more that you do that, the more effectively it's able to nurture you right back. The more effective those different tools and ingredients and items are in that space because you put that care and thought into them. So, learning basic things like about how long roughly is safe to keep food before you need to get rid of it, so you know when to eat it in time or when to repurpose it, or when to compost or whatever. This is a way to be intentional with the sacredness that is food. The more we treat each ingredient and meal and consumable as sacred, the more nourishing that item, ingredient, meal, etc. is within and around us. So one of the most fascinating, what do you call that? Like, I don't know. The word thing is all I can think of. One of the most fascinating things that I ever learned, I don't know, maybe you'd call it like, there's studies. There you go. That's probably better. There are studies, and I find this so fascinating. It's one of my favorite, things about food spirituality, I guess is what I'd call it, because this is way bigger than just witchcraft and kitchen magic. Okay, this is way bigger. This encompasses all religions, all spiritualities, food spirituality as this huge universal archetypal concept. There are studies that show that people that treat food as sacred or pray over their food or speak thanks or gratitude or affirmations or take this time to have a spiritual or energetic connection with the food or the beverages that they consume, um have better health benefits usually from what they eat or better relationships with their food. There's often more effective healing that can come from nourishing from our food. Like it's like our bodies are better able to access the full potential of our food because we're not just letting ourselves access the physical potential of it. When we bring mindfulness to it, we're also taking advantage of the spiritual potential or the energetic potential of our food. And here's the thing. This is all fascinating because in food science, we're talking about food spirituality. In food science, food and drinks is literally the conversion of energy. We take in these resources and consume it, and our bodies convert it into energy so that we can live. So even just in the plain base science conversation of this alone, there is an energetic exchange going on with us and food and nourishment. Okay. So at the very, very least, I recommend letting yourself really lean into that both physically and figuratively in a magical metaphor, knowing that you are going under and into this energetic exchange with food. Therefore, it's this sacred act. So even if it's as simple as incorporating some sort of prayer routine or affirmation that you speak before you eat or while you prepare your food or while you get the dishes out to eat it on or while you clean up the mess after you eat. I have always said that after a spell, the cleanup is just as sacred, can be just as sacred and intentional of an act as the spell itself. And this very much goes for like doing the dishes or cleaning up after yourself after you eat. So there are so many different ways you can bring even just like these little micro doses of intention and awareness into this process. And it will strongly amplify this experience and make eating something that you're much, much more present with, that you will be opening yourself up to reaping even more of the benefits of food and like from our physical health benefits of the food to our emotional health benefits of the food, our spiritual and energetic benefits of the food. So go into this knowing that in the majority of our culture, in Western culture, we have been taught to be very, very mindless with food. And probably the most special, sacred, magical thing you can do is just bring as much mindfulness into the practice as possible. You treat your kitchen as a sacred space and you recognize eating and consuming as the sacred exchange of energy act, and you have a very strong foundation of kitchen witchcraft already beneath you to lead you forward. Truly, those two things, that's so much. But I do want to say that there's a couple of different types of kitchen magic. So there's kind of what I've been really focusing on, which is day-to-day cooking and preparing of food. And then there's also ceremonial, celebratory, the creating and crafting of feasts type of kitchen magic and kitchen witchery as well. Each of these serves just as sacred of purposes, they are just different in execution. And honestly, this is a beautiful metaphor for witchcraft itself. There's our day-to-day mundane magic, and then of course there's our big curated grand spells and rituals that we do, or celebrations or ceremonies that we perform. It's not that there's a hierarchy here. It's that each serve their own purpose and have their own execution. Just because the grand, beautiful ritual exists doesn't mean we ignore the day-to-day. But just because we have a strong day-to-day practice doesn't mean that there's not room or benefit for those, going all out kind of experiences, celebrations, ceremonies, and in the world of kitchen witchery, feasts. Think about feasts, okay? First of all, for someone who's tripping over their words, it's hard to say feasts so many times without it sounding weird. But I want you to think about the role of and the concept of the feast since ancient times and how that has transformed and evolved and developed over time. There are still a lot of reflections of that to this day. And really getting some good inspiration from history, from the ancients, and then marrying that with our modern world, our modern culture, our modern accessibilities. This is a really, really beautiful way of connecting with your ancestors, of honoring the past, as well as, embracing progress, because there's, especially in the subject specifically of food and drink, like in modern magic, we don't, in the Western world, in most places in the Western world, I should say, we don't really think twice about the fact that we're all carrying around one of these. And if you're not watching the video, I'm holding up my water bottle. We all just carry around drinking water and can have and do have access to clean drinking water on a level that has made it something that we are like completely like disassociated from. We don't even think, there's so many of us that we don't even think twice about it. Now, there are plenty of places in the world, including in the Western world, that do not have access to clean drinking water. And this is a humongous privilege, and there's massive disparity there. But we've come so far in our technology when it comes to creating access to clean drinking water that we are officially in a time that we should be getting more and more outraged that there is anyone in the world without clean drinking water. We absolutely have the technology and the money and the resources in our global midst right now. I'm sure of it, if we as a human race could pull our heads out of our asses, that we should be in a place where there should be access to clean drinking water for literally all human beings. I'm confident we've come far enough in technology and resources that if the right people and the right numbers of people decided to do that, it would actually happen. However, a world existed for a really long time, like millions of years. And if we're only talking about like human civilization years, still tens of thousands of years, that we did not have the technology to provide access to clean drinking water on the vast majority scale. Drinking water was one of the most dangerous things for your health for a long time in human history before we started really figuring out sanitation practices and clean water practices and technologies. So, first of all, this is why there's stuff like this that I like drawing light to, or like bringing light to, because I just think that especially kitchen witchcraft is one of those branches of magic that people just blindly are like, we should just practice this the way that our ancestors did, and there's not a single thing to touch, and everything modern is automatically evil and poisonous to the ancient practices of food preparation and stuff. And like, it's just not true. There's so much that modern science has developed and figured out so to make food way more accessible, way safer, way healthier on way bigger scales. And hopefully, we only continue going in that direction and exponentially, hopefully. But that information about water alone is so important. Like the amount of people that are like, no, this is a feast that is only to be consumed with wine and it must be red wine. Well, first of all, there are people that don't drink and consume wine or alcohol like yours truly. And also we are talking about these recipes and feasts and traditions often come from times where it was literally safer to drink wine than it was to drink water because there wasn't access to clean drinking water. So this is why we take like inspiration from and we honor and pay respect to the past, and then we marry it with the reality of the current modern time that we live in. This is grounded, practical spirituality, my friend. So, I really want you to, when it comes to embarking more and more on your food and kitchen magic journey, I want you to bear that in mind, because you will inevitably come across resource after resource that will draw you to the past over and over again and start painting the past like this kind of guaranteed it was better way back then. And that's just not true. Let's use a little bit of critical thinking when it comes to that. Kitchen witchcraft is not less effective because you are mixing your spell in a plastic bowl than a cauldron or than a handmade ceramic bowl. There are so many witches that will tell you how horrible it is to make a spell in a plastic bowl, use a plastic spoon, a plastic baggie, and that the evils of plastics. Here's the deal. Calling plastics evil is the same fucking thing as calling a tarot deck evil. I really want you to let that sink in. It's not that plastics are evil. It's what we have done with them, how we've consumed them, and how we have disposed of them. How plastics has been used and abused is where the evil has been. The invention of plastic and plastics is another one of those things that has been incredible for so many different reasons. First of all, ask any parent, are you buying glass for your toddler to use on their high chair? No. We're buying as many things in plastic, and if you're able to buy something that sources their plastic in a good way or is from recycled plastics, those things are amazing. Where you're able to do that is amazing. We also have to recognize that like not everybody has the funds or the access to be able to do that. There are tons and tons of reasons why people can't use glass or ceramics or cast iron or whatever it is. There are a ton, again, and I draw your attention back to being neurodivergent, being disabled, being elderly. Depending on your living situation, your cooking and kitchen situation, there are a million reasons why plastic bowls or cutlery might just be the more realistic thing for you. And there are way too many witches out there that are like, that's not real kitchen magic. That's not real kitchen witchery. Our ancestors never would have. Okay, our ancestors couldn't fathom this. Carrying around half a gallon of clean drinking water whenever I want. This is a gift right here. That's a beautiful way to practice kitchen witchery, is taking that reminder from this episode and grabbing your water bottle and having a deep, deep moments of reverence and thanks for the fact that you have access to clean drinking water and these like beautiful vessels to carry it in that you can decorate, and you have different colors and you can choose it based on the size of your cup holder and your vehicle you drive yourself around in. There's the act of eating and drinking can lead us to so many beautiful forms of gratification type of magic and work. Let me just tell you that much. So there's just I want you to know that as you go further and further into deepening this practice for yourself, you are going to come across books, articles, content from people telling you that the old ways are the best, that the old ways are the best. And you know what? Do you know how many of those people who say that are very mad about another group of people saying a very similar thing? How is it any different to say, oh, our ancestors did everything right, than make a certain place great again, implying that if we go back, everything. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we have to do the both and thing as modern witches, my friend, including as modern kitchen witches. We take inspiration from, have reverence and honor the past, and we marry that with realistically the modern world and times we live in today with the knowledge and the new context that we have today. Okay? That's effective magic, not pissing on the past or trying to perfectly live in the past either. Okay? Both and. Bridge the gap, my friend. And really, the last main things that you want to take into consideration when it comes to kitchen witchcraft is the energy of your ingredients. We could have a whole episode on the ethics of food, and we are not going to do that. In fact, I'm not even going to touch into it today because that's not the subject of this episode. So this is not a conversation about whether vegan or vegetarian or pescatarian or the carnivore diet or the keto diet, or I'm not here to have food ethics conversation, whether it's okay or not to eat meat or animal products. I am going to direct you to your own lifestyle when it comes to that, my friend. You have so much better context for diet choices for yourself than I could ever possibly give you. Whether or not you're a meat eater or an animal products user or eater, like that kind of stuff comes down to you, your culture, how you were raised, your own beliefs, your own morals. We're not going into that. However, I am going to still talk about the energies that are in foods and ingredients, but I'm talking about the magical properties, the energetic properties. So ingredients are often associated with a certain element, sometimes more than one element, but very often ingredients are associated with the water element, the fire element, the earth element. There is often an astrological component as well, being associated with a certain zodiac sign and or a certain planetary ruler. Ingredients are often also associated with different deities and spiritual beings. So if you've ever heard of a goddess of the grain, like Demeter, for example, in Greek mythology, This is a deity very as often who oats and wheat are associated with, rice, quinoa. Literally, if it's a grain, it's associated with a goddess of the grain. So different deities are often associated with different foods, and or foods are associated with those deities, whichever perspective you want to look at that from. It doesn't really matter. But there are these connections between spiritual beings and deities very, very often. My favorite book for that, I didn't bring it up here. I have other books to show you at the end of the episode. My favorite book for that is definitely Llewellyn's Book of Correspondences, where it's just very, very easy to look up a specific deity and then look up different astrological correspondences it's associated with, elements it's associated with, and then it will often have different animals, trees, herbs, plants, flowers, etc. associated with it, and then you can connect those to food. So for example, if a deity is associated with cow, with the animal cattle, or bull, or you can go, okay, so I'm going to draw this red meat connection here with this deity. So I personally like Llewellyn's Book of Correspondences as a starting place, but there's many, many wonderful resources out there for learning about specific deities and what different objects, items, and different things in our world are associated with them. We will definitely be going into more deity work this season. But for now, to keep it to kitchen magic, it's most helpful to try and learn what element a food is associated with, and or like specific intention it's associated with. So apples are very associated with love, for example. Basil is very associated with abundance, for example. Learning things like that, what types of intentions are associated with food, can definitely help. Personally, I like learning the element that a food is associated with, because an element can connect to the four elements: earth, air, fire, water, but also the chakras or energy centers, because these concepts are so connected with one another. So I like learning more about an even more broad association with the food, like the element, the type of energy, versus specific intentions, because I just widen my scope a little bit better. So, for example, citrus fruits are very associated with solar and fire energy. I know what types of intentions, issues, desires can be associated with the element of fire. And therefore, I will grab orange peel or I'll grab lemon juice anytime I want anything that could be connected with the fire element. So yes, of course, there are wonderful resources that will go into a glossary of ingredients that tell you what types of food are associated with love, abundance, protection, prosperity, health, right? These types of things. I like to go even more broad though, because when you go by element, this is covering a wide range of those things. And you'll see even more when we get to a couple of our book examples. But choosing ingredients to match your intentions tends to be like that's like our go-to assumption. But you really can, you can really reverse this process more often, a lot easier than you might think. It's a lot easier to just let your intentions infuse into the ingredients that you just want to use. Another thing that you can do is you can kind of look for the symbology and the metaphor in the types of foods that you've been gravitating toward or craving or even averting or like not really enjoying or not feeling like lately. So if you have been like really, really craving green foods, or if you have been really, really craving and wanting a bunch of like grain based carbs, like breads and pasta, or if you've been really craving starches, like veggie starches, like carrots and potatoes and corn and stuff, you can, yes, there's these, usually these either nutrient deficiencies or these nutrient needs that our body has, and that's where these cravings are coming from. And then remember the both and, like that's the physical science of that. And then what is also the spiritual meaning or the spiritual metaphor on top of that. Maybe look up what is associated with potatoes, or look up what is associated with the color green. If you're just craving a bunch of green foods, look up what's associated with the color green. And maybe you've been craving love or heart connection, because green is very associated with our heart chakra, right? So this is why when it comes to learning magical associations of food, take your time. Learn foods ingredient by ingredient, especially based on the things that you consume the most or are your favorites. Again, I'll go into some book recommendations that definitely have a lot of your basics in there, and your bases are definitely going to be covered. A lot of those are covered in Llewellyn's book of correspondences as well. There's tons of great resources that'll cover like the basics, but obviously food ingredients is a pretty endless, it's truly a never-ending learning process. If you really wanted to learn what every single food you could ever eat is associated with, magically speaking, it would probably take you your whole entire life. So there's no race to learning like what foods are associated with love and love magic. You know, just take all of this in. Maybe look up and see if your local library has any of the books that I've recommended today, or if you can find a good used copy at a local thrift store or local bookstore that you have. Sometimes what I like to do, if I can't find it at my local library, is I will go to my local bookstore with the intention of definitely buying something. I really go when I have the budget to get something so that I'm supporting my local bookshop. But I will plan to spend a little bit of time there. I'll plan to go during a time I can actually like pull out book by book off the shelf and like really flip through it and decide if that's something that I would want to get and if I would use it. Since you can't full on check it out and bring it home like you can at the library, this is another way that you can kind of look through. But books, when it comes to kitchen witchcraft, this is going to be something that you really, really, really love. Whether you already love cooking or you are one of those that are trying to come around to this process a little bit more, books are going to be really, really helpful, because I have found that kitchen witchcraft is so unique, person to person, practitioner to practitioner. Everybody has something creative. Everybody has some unique idea or thing that they practice or something that was passed on to them. Like it's such, I mean, really every branch of witchcraft is probably like that if you really, really look at it. But I find this no matter how many kitchen witchcraft books for beginners there are out there, they really do each have something unique to offer. Even if a lot of them have a lot of the same basic concepts, each practitioner puts their own flair in there. So I cannot recommend books enough when it comes to this. Cookbooks, kitchen witchcraft books, food magic books, and again, learning more about elemental magic is going to really, really benefit you naturally in a type of magic like kitchen witchery as well. So also learn your elementals as well. So let's look a little bit at some of my favorite kitchen witchcraft and kitchen magic books that I have collected and read over the years. So I think the oldest one I still have here, the oldest I ever had that I finally gifted when I was moving away. I took a lot of my witchcraft books and gave them to my sister, my friends, when I was moving, just different spiritual books that had served their time with me and were going to be with someone else. So I did like Wicca in the Kitchen by Scott Cunningham. My caveat to that is Scott Cunningham definitely vegan. And so there's going to be that vegan perspective. And depending on, how you feel with that, that can be something that you either, it really resonates with you, or it can be something that like brings up guilt for you or is maybe off-putting for you for, there's no judgment either way. But I do want to throw that out there that if it's Wicca related, very, very, not always, but very often there is a vegan component just to be aware of. So that was probably the first kitchen magic book that I ever got, was Wicca in the Kitchen by Scott Cunningham. Plenty of good information in it. Also had a glossary of ingredients that told you different associations and correspondences with different ingredients and stuff like that. But bear in mind, there is a little bit of the food ethics conversation in that particular book. I also have Supermarket Magic. This is by Michael Fury. If you're a longtime listener of the podcast, this is not the first time you're hearing me talk about this book. I love this book. This is an oldie favorite of mine. This was like the second or third kitchen specific magic book that I got. This was a book that introduced to me going into public places and putting and visualizing protective orbs around yourself before doing that. This was one of the first examples I read about that in my earliest days practicing witchcraft. And that is something that has served me well outside of the grocery store and cooking and kitchen magic. So again, it's another one of those things where I'm like, every single one of these books probably has like some little quirk that like totally changed things for me. Not just in the specific subject that the book's about, but like I probably found a way to apply it into my life and magic in general. I like Supermarket Magic because you are going to get some explanation about ingredients, but it's also organized by intention with the food or recipes. So healing is a whole chapter. Love, lust, and beauty magic is a whole chapter. Luck is a chapter. Money is another chapter, etc., etc. There's also a chapter on the Sabbats and the Esbats. So the Wheel of the Year celebrations. And then there is a little section in here about magical fundamentals. So this can be for like the total beginner or the intermediate witch who's ready to like pick it up and like already start rolling. And then the nice thing is that each section comes with lots of different recipes and lists and instructions, but they also have shopping lists as well, which can be really convenient, especially if you're a super visual person. So Supermarket Magic is a good one. Now, back to our pal, Scott Cunningham. Scott Cunningham is just a really famous Wicca writer. You've probably read at least or seen at least something of his or another. This is one of my favorite books on magical use of herbs. There are many, many great books on healing and holistic medicinal uses of herbs out there. This is magical spiritual properties specifically. And as you can tell, if you're watching the video, this is in general a pretty small book if you're thinking about the entire plant kingdom. So this is definitely not a fully exhaustive resource, but it is a wonderful base. It's a wonderful jumping off point. My biggest gripe with this book is that it's not bigger. There have definitely been a good handful of herbs that I've gone to look up and I'm like, I cannot believe that's not in here. Because this, how does it just, I wonder if Scott defines an herb. I don't know if he defines an actual herb, but that's where we get a little bit hazy, because it's like, well, did we promise to put every single edible plant in here? I guess not necessarily, but at the same time, some of us do technically define an herb by an edible plant. But then that starts to get super dicey, because it's like, okay, so is an apple tree an herb? No, it's a fruiting tree. Exactly. So you're definitely going to run into some limits, is all I'm saying, but it's a wonderful, wonderful resource for specifically looking up, like, okay, so the first page I opened to was lettuce, garden lettuce. It's for Lactuca sativa is the plant name. Garden lettuce, lettuce, sleepwort, these are all different folk names. It lists the gender of the plant. So that's another disclaimer I'll put in here for you. This book was published in the 80s, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And so it talks about the gender of the plant being feminine or masculine. I personally choose to use the terms polarities and call different things left brain or right brain. Some people use terms like feminine and masculine, but they say I'm talking about divine or archetypal femininity and masculinity. Use phrases and terminology that work best for you, but I just want to put that out there to you, that this, this is written in the 80s, and so it does tell you on each plant here the gender, if it's masculine or feminine, so you can infer your own, or you can relabel it yourself. This is an easy one to find used usually. And then you can always like put little sticky notes you can mark in your own. You can treat this and books like this like little grimoires, where you can go and kind of add into what the author wrote, or you can even change what the author wrote by adding in your own experiences, your own terminology. Maybe a planet, Saturn, is here listed with henbane poison. Saturn is the planetary element. Maybe you work with this plant and you find that it has this very plutonic energy about it. And so you indicate that Pluto seems to be associated with this as well. So all of these can be jumping off points. I love Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Herbs. It can be a little outdated and a little limited in a few ways, but overall there's a reason it still has a place on my bookshelf, and it's still one of my most frequently grabbed reference books to this day. All right, now, my favorites. Okay. My favorites. So, The House Witch. You're probably going to be like, Danny, you've recommended all these books before. Yeah, and if you haven't checked them out yet, you need to. And if this is your first time here, or you haven't heard these recommendations yet, this is why I always re-recommend them, because there's always somebody who hasn't seen that episode or heard that recommendation from me. If you have not invested in The House Witch yet, and you enjoy what we talk about here on That Witch podcast, you need this book. You will love this book. This book inspires so much of my magical practice. So much came from this. I read it probably 2 or 3 times. It is a very quick, brief read, but it's succinct and solid, and it's Danny in a book, because I love good jumping off points like this. Like, I want you to give me the basics, give me a good, solid understanding, give me a few ideas for some inspiration, and then let me go running with it. And that's what The House Witch has done for me. It cracked open my house magic. And house magic is so intertwined with kitchen magic. So many of the concepts in house magic you're going to directly apply in the kitchen anyways. I highly recommend this book so much. So good. Okay. This is by Erin Murphy Hiscock, by the way. Next. These have become little favies of mine. If you've listened to the podcast for a while, you know how much I love The Hearth Witch's Year. This is by Anna Franklin. Also by Anna Franklin is The Hearth Witch's Compendium and the Hearth Witch's Kitchen Herbals. So I don't have either of these kind of companion books, but they're probably just as wonderful. I love the Hearth Witch's Year. So much kitchen magic in here, so much home and lifestyle magic, but the whole thing is really centered around the seasons, the wheel of the year, okay? And this is often, just like the House Witch, these are concepts that you are going to naturally find and want to already apply in the kitchen. So the Hearth Witch's Year is an excellent resource and inspiration point. Also filled with lots of good historical information. We used this book and referenced it here on the podcast very frequently throughout our Wheel of the Year episodes. It's a really good, solid resource. I highly recommend it. Okay. Kitchen Witchery by Laurel Woodward, and The Witch's Feast by Melissa Jane Madara. Okay, I apologize to anyone if I'm mispronouncing any authors' names. These are two that are newer to me. I have not covered either of them, so to speak. However, I have utilized at least half, if not more than half of each of these. Like I've definitely gotten through the bulk of both of these. But again, I couldn't say I've covered both of them yet. However, starting with Kitchen Witchery by Laurel Woodward, this is a newer one. This was published in 2021. And I love it. It is very similar to this episode where there is some really good background context on food and ingredients. It's going to go into some of that food ethics and food energy stuff. And then getting into the energies and the intentions that we can harness within foods, like love, attraction, fertility, new opportunities, etc. Talking about really infusing those with your magic or seeking foods out for those purposes. And then you've got a pretty good glossary of ingredients in this guy. That's what I really like. So I just opened randomly and I'm in wheat and other flours. And there's garbanzo flour, hazelnut flour, millet flour, oat flour, just on these 2 pages I'm open to right now. Each one has keywords it's associated with and a good solid paragraph of what is associated. So like garbanzo, or let's do the hazelnut flour. So hazelnut flour is associated with fertility, finding, healing, luck, knowledge, protection, wisdom, and wishes. And then the paragraph says, hazelnuts are also called filberts. They are prized for their flavor. If you are a Nutella fan, you will probably go gaga over hazelnut flour. Dry roasted nuts are quick to grind into flour. If using raw hazelnuts, be sure to toast them under the broiler and rub the skins off before you grind. Do not overbrown or the flavor will turn bitter. Add hazelnut flour to recipes to add energy for fertility, good health, healing, knowledge, luck, or protection. Use it to empower dowsing and wish magic. When I read through Kitchen Witchery, I feel like someone is sharing their kitchen grimoire with me, and I love it. I feel like I'm reading an experienced kitchen witch's notes and experiences that they've worked with and studied about food and ingredients over years and years of time, which is probably exactly how this book came into existence. So I have had nothing but good experience with this book so far. Again, I have not completed it cover to cover, but I've had no drawbacks in any part of it that I've read or utilized before. Highly recommend Kitchen Witchery. Now, the other newer one, The Witch's Feast, a kitchen grimoire. This is like for all my aesthetic girlies out there. It is gorgeous. My little sister gave me this book for Christmas. Yeah, it was Christmas. And if you're on YouTube right now and can see like the glory of the photography in here, it is stunning. It's really, really beautiful. And if you are at all into food photography, like I am, again, because I am a foodie in every way, shape, or form, in all aspects of it. You will really appreciate this book. It is look at the little like metallic on the cover. It's gorgeous. This is my special. I have a ceremony. I have a celebration. I have a feast I'm crafting. This is like I'm spending hours in the kitchen doing kitchen magic today. I'm making a feast for the equinox, or I am making dinner for Beltane. I'm pulling out the witch's feast first, and I am going to that specific, oh, gorgeous, specific feast, and I'm learning about because each of her spreads in here. So there's a feast of Virgo. Let's go to the table of contents. That'll be a little bit better. So there are different feasts throughout this book. Feast of the ancestors. These are traditional feasts, recipes, and rituals of witches past. Then there's feasts of the stars. These are cooking through the wheel of the zodiac. And then there's Feasts of the Heavens, which is planetary magic in the kitchen. So cooking with the sun, the moon, Mercury, etc. Feasts of the Earth, and those are those seasonal feasts like spring equinox, summer solstice, etc. And then there's Feasts of Spells. These are potions, rites, and dinner spells. Each recipe in here, and like individual recipe and whole feasts that feature multiple recipes, all have explanation. So she explains why she chose those ingredients, why that food, why it's associated with that time of year or that energy, etc., etc. So it gives you the visual inspiration. It's like so Venus in a book. It's like this visual inspiration, but it makes you you still bring it into the tangible by cooking it. But you're also learning. And these are such unique recipes. This is a great, great example of someone being inspired by our ancestors and ancient practices and marrying this with our modern reality and world, like we were talking about. I love the Witch's Feast. I have cooked several, not near all, but I have cooked many different recipes out of here and loved them. So highly, highly recommend. Okay, and then my last little cookbook here is called Signs and Seasons. This is an astrology cookbook. I asked for this for Christmas a few years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. It is adorable. So the Signs and Seasons, Feed Your Sign, the Food It Craves, is by Amy Zerner, Monty Farber, Amy Zerner and Monty Farber with Chef John Okus. Again, apologies if I am mispronouncing any names at all. This is when astrologers and cooks came together and magic happened. This is organized by the astrological wheel. So it begins at spring with Aries. There is it begins with the whole first quarter of the zodiac wheel. So Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. We've got explanation about Aries, different information about the sign itself, how they eat, how they cook, how they entertain. Then we're on to Taurus for the same information. Then we're on to Gemini for the same information. Then it takes us through, does it do all of them? Oh, okay. So we go through the whole entire zodiac wheel just at the very beginning. Then you go into the recipes, which are organized by season. And the photography and the food visuals in here are also absolutely stunning and gorgeous as well. And each of the recipes has explanation about how and why it's associated with that zodiac time, that season, that time of year, along with the actual recipe itself. This is very, very similar in my home to the Witch's Feast, where I really use both of these for ceremonial, big cooking kitchen magic. I am utilizing books like The House Witch, The Hearth Witch's Year, Kitchen Witchery, to inform more of my day-to-day kitchen witchcraft. And I'm using those bigger books because I'm grabbing them for specific recipes that I'm either going to directly make or I'm going to riff off of for an equinox celebration, etc. Something along those lines. And then the last books that I recommend are the books that you create yourself. So what each of these are that I'm holding up is they're blank notebooks that we have filled. So this one called Favorite Recipes, this little binder, this was just a little blank recipe binder that we bought at Target in the upfront cheap section at Target, like 10 years ago or something. We've had this for so long. It was probably 10 years ago. We've had it forever. And over time, as my husband and I have nailed down our favorite recipes, we add them in here. So my husband's absolutely out of this world brown butter chocolate chip cookies. They live immortally in this book, for example. Our famous green chili recipe is in here. Yep, see, the best chocolate chip cookies. And there's literally flour and chocolate smudges on it. That's the best. That's what I love about these. I like a binder for this because it makes it really, really easy to organize, tear out, add to. We happen to find this cute little thing and it's worked wonders for us. But any type of little binder and paper, notebook or whatever would work totally and completely fine and serve the same purpose. This is a grimoire, a little family recipe book, and we even have a couple of recipes from my husband's grandma in here as well that she hand wrote for us, and I just keep them clipped in here anytime that we need them. This is the type of thing that I want to add to and pass on to Blair, and maybe she passes on. I don't know. This is a grimoire. This is a book of shadows, though. Your recipe book is a book of shadows. Don't be afraid to use it. Write in it. It doesn't have to be beautiful and pretty. It could just be a standard binder or notebook that you start, and you eventually you can always upgrade it or change it later, but you should start by writing down the things that you love making the most. If there's something that someone you love makes, something that is one of your favorite things in the world, ask them to write it down. If they don't know it, ask if you can write it down while they cook it one day and explain the process to you. This is something that my mother-in-law organized for my husband's grandma, for the whole family, really is why she did this. But she went to my husband's grandma, her mom, and asked her to write down some different family favorite recipes. And it turned into this beautiful, huge project where some of her recipes she knew where she got them from, or she was able to just say, but some of them she hadn't followed a recipe in years. It was something that she had just made. And so my mother-in-law would watch her cook it and would ask her questions and write notes down and make notes about measurements and things like that. She compiled all of this information into digital and physical books and ordered them for all of us and had them printed for all of us. So we have these notebooks, these collections of of all of the family's favorite recipes of different foods that my husband's grandmother has made for years and years and years. And it has been not only this, I mean, we use it all the time because we love the dishes in there, but it's the process that went into making it was beautiful. And it's just something that is so inspiring that I think so many of us could adopt as well. And then just to kind of tie off in the really traditional witchcrafty way, they do also have Kitchen Witch blank grimoires out there. So this is called the Kitchen Witch's Grimoire. This was published by Pagan Essentials. There are a few different types of journals out there published by Pagan Essentials that you can find online. This is this really simple notebook. You open it to blank pages, but they're structured blank pages. It gives you space to write the title of the recipe, how many servings, cook time, prep time, temperature, all your usual, the ingredients, and then the steps. If you want to pair it with a wine or a beverage, where the recipe came from, like if it was your own or if you got it from somebody. And then it also has a wine component next to it, which I got these in my wine drinking days. But this 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 basic structure and concept is so easy to adopt for yourself. You could get a structured book like this and follow it exactly. And fill these in exactly as they're intended. Oh, and then there's also, I forgot, there's lunar pages in here as well, where you can write what phase of the moon that the moon was in at that time, if you invoked any deities during this recipe, any immediate feelings or effects from the recipe. So you can, it's this threefold of a recipe book. It can also be used as like a wine taster or a beverage taster, as well as a spell book as well. You can get something like this and follow it as intended. Or you can get this and you can totally change it. So if you get this and you're like me and you're like, well, I'm not really going to use it for wine, but I have use on this page, I can change the label for X, Y, and Z, and I can change it to say this, and maybe I have this instead. Maybe this is going to be the food recipe side, and maybe this is going to be the elixir that I made, especially because every single feast that I make, I always make some sort of elixir, some sort of mixed drink without alcohol for myself to go with the meal that I'm having in a special way, especially because I like to have a drink while I'm cooking as well. It's usually the first thing I craft or make before I start the actual cooking process itself. So something like this can be really helpful for someone who needs the structure and doesn't really know where to get started in creating their own kind of kitchen witch grimoire. Having this structure and like blanks to fill in can feel really helpful. This can also feel really stifling and suffocating for others as well. So you might not like something where you have to fill in the blank, and you might need something where you can kind of like go on a blank page and roam free. But I still wanted to show you both of these because we do use them both in our home for different purposes. And it is so cool to go back and see these foods and these recipes that you've either adopted or you've created and how they've evolved over the years, and the memories you have associated with those recipes that you've grabbed for over and over again. So if you have something, if there's like a salad that you make or a soup that you make or a certain sandwich that you make, it's like one of your favorites and you're like, it wasn't really from a recipe. It's just this thing that I've been making for forever, but I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I crave it all the time. Write that down. Do that process with yourself, like I explained with my husband's family. Do that process with yourself. Get paper and something to write out with, and write out how you make that. If you had to measure it, what would the measurements roughly be? When you look at it through that perspective, what are some of the magical correspondences of those ingredients? If you have this just love for PB&J, if you're like, I know it's not like the fanciest thing, but it's like the most nostalgic and I love it and it's comforting and like, I just love PB&Js. Look up the magical correspondences for peanuts, for whatever type of fruit that your favorite jelly is made out of, and wheat or whatever grain of bread that you're using. And go look up those magical correspondences and turn around and go, oh, that's really fascinating, actually, no wonder I love and crave PB&J so much. It's associated with this. You never know. It's kind of like learning your birth chart. learning these magical associations and correspondences with food and how they show up in our cooking and in our eating for ourselves. It's a lot like learning our birth chart, where we're like, it's this totally spiritual lens of looking through, where you don't realize you've been totally you've been in symbolic metaphor with the universe without even realizing it. And now that you are realizing it, you can now bring even more mindfulness into the act, even more intention, and have purpose in how you choose what to nourish yourself with, how you prepare what you nourish yourself with, and how you care for the area and the tools where you prepare your foods and your drinks as well. So, neighbor, thanks for being here with me today. It's been such a blast, like really just getting into the heart and soul of kitchen magic with you today, straight from the heart and soul of a true kitchen witch. I've got all links and information for any books that I recommended in the show notes below if you're interested in any of those. If you are like, oh my God, I would love to keep going further and further, because again, there is so much more we can go into, that we will be going into the Kitchen Magic Masterclass. Make sure that you join me in that witch school. All access members are going to have automatic access to this workshop and any other future workshops. But this is also going to be coming to you in that witch shop as well. So keep an eye out for this workshop. When I release it, you will hear about that here on the podcast, but you'll always hear about those things first in my email newsletter. So make sure that you do subscribe to my email newsletter. Any information you need is in the show notes below. Thank you for your time and your interest in magic, my friend. It is always so much fun hanging out with you here in the neighborhood. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Hell yeah to season 8. We have so much more we're going to be getting into, my friend. Make sure that you are out there staying safe, letting yourself have some fun, and of course, stay magical, my friend. What is that witch school? That witch school is my magical monthly membership that combines safe, welcoming, nurturing community with quality, ethical witchcraft and astrology education. This is like Patreon meets social media, but better. We have monthly calls hosted and guided by myself, as well as multiple instructors within our school. An incredibly beautiful and supportive community of like-minded witches, all built from the neighbors within our neighborhood right here. Plus, there is a just astounding library of resources and content that is always growing, and so much more. You can go back and listen to my episode on the podcast called Welcome to That Witch School 2025 for all kinds of details and information on the membership, the different plans you can subscribe for, pricing, and frequently asked questions, everything that you need to know. Or you can always send me a direct message or email if you ever have any questions. You can get my contact information in the show notes below. And when you're ready to join us, you can go to thatwitchschool.com and find the plan that works for you and join our magical community today.